So Malcolm, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
But surely you had some ambition as a kid to do something.
Jeez, I don't. Yeah, to be honest, nothing comes to mind. I had friends who, at age 6, knew they were going to be a doctor. You know.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of them.
And how did you discover the Alexander technique?
Through my cello teacher. I had a lot of problems with tension, and she suggested I might want to start taking some lessons. She'd had some herself in the UK, and had come back and said, "Why don't you try this Alexander thing?" And of course I had never heard of it, and it sounded a bit weird, but I trusted her and started having some lessons.
And how did you respond to the first few lessons?
It was a bit of a blur, to tell you the truth. My first teacher didn't explain a whole lot, or maybe whatever he did, I wasn't really able to grasp. And so it was sort of an interesting physical process for me. I didn't really, I wasn't able to understand the link between thinking and inhibition or direction or any of that. It was all just a matter of instinct as far as movement went.
Yeah.
And the thought that my thinking could have an influence on the quality of my movement was not on the radar screen.
So when and how did Alexander technique start to make sense to you?
About a second year into my training. So that was quite a few private lessons and a year in the training school, and then it started to make a bit more sense.
Why did you decide to train to become an Alexander teacher if it didn't really make much sense to you?
Well, some things intellectually made sense. The idea of an organizing principle around which coordination and movement could be generated. This made a lot of sense, at least intellectually, and I wanted to learn more about that. I wanted I wanted to kind of understand, even if I didn't, know what it meant beyond the intellectual. And the other thing was the idea that I could. If I learned to teach the Alexander technique, it's something I could do my whole life, because there were teachers in their 80s. Alexander was well in his 80s when, he was still teaching. And that had a certain appeal to me. So no matter what else I did in life in terms of work, Alexander could always be there. So those two things, those were the big appeals. And also I felt that at some level it would help me play the cello better. And it started to have a bit of an effect in that way. It wasn't obvious.
So at what level were you playing the cello?
I've been playing for, by the time I started Alexander lessons, I've been playing for maybe 10 years, but I wouldn't call myself an advanced player. I had a lot of problems with sort of stage fright. I had a lot of problems with tension. But I love the cello, and I knew I could play better than I was showing. But, I was kind of a prisoner of myself in a way, and I felt the Alexander technique was a way forward, but it was by no means an instant cure.
What did you love and hate about your training in the technique under Patrick McDonald's school?
Yeah, well, there were two teachers. There was Patrick and Shoshana, and I loved. It was a fantastic experience. It's probably the best long-term learning experience in which I've ever been involved. Way better than university. Although I'm I still take cello lessons, so I really enjoy the learning process, and I still take tennis lessons occasionally, singing lessons occasionally. this was really a focused learning process in which theory and practice found some middle ground. And I loved the challenge of that. And I loved how, yes, you can, all you need to do is this, and the person will, you'll be able to take somebody out of a chair without any effort. And that was the theory. And then you tried to do it, and it didn't work. And it was constantly trying to figure out, okay, I've got to change what? Is it just a physical manipulation? No. Is it a change of thought resulting in something that you weren't under control of, but you had a sense of? Seemed to be more like that. And so it was a very different learning process, and I really struggled with that, and I really liked it. And so that was definitely a high. And the other thing, how strong I got, physically, I found the whole process made me really strong. I used to get up at 7, go for a run, come back, practice the cello for half an hour, jump on my bike, cycle to school, 3 hours of school, jump on my bike, cycle to work, half an hour, work from 1 o'clock until 10, jump on my bike, 1 hour home, and repeat. And I could do that and go out and drink and party on the weekend and all the rest of it, and the feet never hit the ground. And I look at what I was able to do there in a week, and I think I'd be in intensive care if I tried to do, if I hadn't had Alexander. But the Alexander technique just really enabled me to free up my energy, and I had a lot of energy anyway, but wow, that was fantastic. What was hard in the class was not a lot was explained, and so we struggled a lot to kind of understand what we were being asked to do. What was this? What was inhibition? What were the steps? What were how were we supposed to work? This wasn't spelled out, and many of us actually went outside the class to try to find answers. I ended up having lessons for a number of years with Marjorie Barlow, Alexander's niece, who was very good at kind of filling in the gaps. That's.
So how was this bloke named Pedro de Alcantara? Wasn't he in the program with you at that time?
Yep, Pedro and I were, at that time, were actually pretty good friends. And in fact, he helped me a lot in terms of applying the Alexander technique to playing the cello. And he used to come and funny enough, he used to come and run with me, and I would show him a few things about how to run. And he actually got, he improved his running quite a lot, and I improved my cello playing a lot working with Pedro. So he was like a year. He was a year behind me, but after you've been in the class for a number of terms, the boundaries sort of blur. And so I knew Pedro quite well while I was in England, and we've kind of drifted, since then. But we were pretty close, and also with his wife, his first wife at the time, Marjorie Hodge, who was in the class, very close with her, and my first wife. We used to hang out a lot together and go for runs on the Saturday morning and have pancakes with maple syrup, and generally hang out quite a lot together.
So why do Alexander teachers go through so many spouses?
It's all that forward and up, I think.
How did you come to running?
I came to running after I played ice hockey, and I retired from hockey when I was 19. And actually, I started playing. I knew I wanted to play the cello at that point, and I started,